Peter, when I listen to leading figures on the political left railing against multimillionaires and billionaires, you kind of get the impression that they don't care about money. But they do care about money, don't they?
Absolutely, and they show it in all sorts of ways, especially when it comes to their own finances. When you look at Bernie Sanders' rhetoric, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and 2000s, he used the phrase that America's politics is dominated by billionaires and millionaires. Beginning in 2016, he only talked about the fact that our politics was dominated by billionaires. Why? Because he's now one.
He's now a millionaire.
Yeah, exactly.
The Obamas have gone from zero to what, $40 million in net worth in a few years?
Yeah, that's right.
The Clintons have gone from zero to $200 million.
Exactly right.
How do you make that kind of dough, in a sense, on a government salary?
Well, you don't. You know, what political figures do is they need to create demand for their own services. And so they do that by accumulating power.
If you want this from the state, you got to go through me, and that means you got to line my pocket.
That's exactly right. And the price goes up. The more power an individual has, the bigger premium there is on actually having to pay them to get those favors in return. The Bidens have done very well, and Joe Biden's been very sophisticated and shrewd in the way he's done it. He's essentially offshored the corruption, which means he's been in politics, was in politics for more than 40 years. And during that time, his net worth really didn't grow. But what did grow was the net worth of his family members. A politician like Joe Biden, he has to disclose if he has $1,000 in General Electric stock. He has to disclose if he gets a $200 campaign contribution. But if his brother gets a massive government contract, if his son does a massive private equity deal with a foreign government, there's no disclosure requirement.
Let's track a little bit of the Biden family racket. Biden's brother, James Biden. So James Biden now, in his company, Hillstone Holdings, made a big chunk of money in Iraq. How did they do that?
Go back to November of 2010, a guy named Kevin Justice shows up at the vice president's office in the White House. 3 weeks later, Kevin Justice appoints James Biden, who has no experience, as the new executive vice president of Hillstone, a construction company that he has just formed. In 6 months, this new construction company lands a contract to build 100,000 homes in Iraq.
And what is that contract worth?
About $1.5 billion. During this time, Joe Biden was the point person on Iraqi reconstruction.
Now, there's another Biden brother.
So Frank Biden had been a largely unsuccessful real estate agent in Florida. His brother is elected vice president of the United States in 2009, and he decides he's going to get into the energy business. His brother, in the spring of 2009, makes a trip to Costa Rica, meets with Costa Rican President Arias. Within a couple of months, Frank Biden is in Costa Rica. He has meetings with Costa Rican government officials, and he signs an exclusive deal with the Costa Rican National Power Company for green energy projects in Costa Rica. His company, Sun Fund Americas, is involved in a project that includes $47 million in taxpayer-backed loans in Jamaica. Again, Frank Biden, like other Biden family members, has no background, but for some reason prospers while his brother is vice president.
Let's turn to Hunter Biden. In 2013, Hunter Biden accompanies his father, Joe Biden, Vice President of the United States, to China.
Hunter Biden is there because he's trying to finalize this incredible deal. It's a private equity deal expanded to $1.5 billion. The Chinese government is putting money into this deal.
And is it a deal to invest in the Chinese economy in ways that are not typically open to Western investors?
Yes, this is the key. Hunter Biden has no background in private equity. He has no background in China. He gets a deal through the Shanghai Free Trade Zone that nobody else operating in China has. The Chinese have had a strategy throughout the Asia-Pacific region of striking deals with the family members of political figures like Joe Biden because they expect favorable policies in return. And if you look at Joe Biden's trajectory as an official as it relates to talking about China when he was a senator to now when he's vice president and then afterward, he has become incredibly soft in his criticism of China. And I personally believe it is directly linked to the fact that his son was doing multiple deals with the Chinese government at the time that he was vice president of the United States.
Was there a Biden family racket in Ukraine?
Oh, absolutely. Go back to 2014. Barack Obama says, I want Joe Biden to be the point person for policy towards Ukraine, which means all aid dollars. Within 3 weeks of that appointment, a Ukrainian energy company called Burisma starts writing checks to the vice president's son.
Now, the press reported it was $50,000 a month going to Hunter Biden. What was the actual number?
Yeah, the actual number we actually have in the bank documents. Yes, payments were not $50,000 a month. They were $83,333 a month, paid twice, because both Hunter Biden and his business partners are on the board of directors, and that amounts to $1 million each per year. These payments started in the spring of 2014 and continued for almost 5 years. And these 300-page documents show that's the amount that they were paid consistently every month. If Donald Trump Jr. flew on Air Force One with his father and, let's say, struck a deal in an area that he doesn't have background, let's say energy, I would be outraged, and I think we would all be outraged. But that didn't happen. The Bidens did it, and for some reason, because he's been this fixture in Washington, D.C., and maybe there are people in the media that like his politics, they sort of brush it off as no big deal. It's a massive, massive double standard.
Well, so this is the point, that the Clintons, the Bidens, they know that they can get away with the racket because their ideological commitments on the left seem to insulate or immunize them. The New York Times doesn't do the expose it would otherwise do. And so they are running a protection racket not only abroad, but they are being protected domestically from being exposed, aren't they?
Yeah, there's a lot less scrutiny of the political left. And I talked to reporters at the Times and at the Washington Post, and there are some very good reporters who want to cover these stories. But the brass at those institutions does not want to touch them. If you look at the Biden family, you're looking at probably $100 million in net worth.